The Valley's mess, why codes of conduct don't work? Corporations are supposed to be the antidote to government. Lean, profit-focused and self-empowered, they get the most done for the least cost. But in one huge yet overlooked way, they mimic the government's endless maze of regulations and red tape. Then, just as government does at its worst moments with regulation, when these companies' self-imposed codes of conduct conflict with their own desires, they ignore or rewrite them to suit their needs. These codes go by myriad names: partner codes, employee codes, vendor codes, business standards codes, and so on. They often are directed not just at the employees of a company, but also at the company's business partners. Across companies, codes usually have a lot of redundancies, but may contain subtle differences that are impossible for workers covered by both codes to reconcile. And that would be a problem if anyone actually paid attention or tried to adhere to them. But mostly, the codes go ignored, either in favor of common sense or for more nefarious reasons. And that leads Fortune to ask, why write these codes? Why pretend as if top executives like Mark Hurd of Hewlett-Packard or Larry Ellison of Oracle are held to these standards, when recent events have shown us quite clearly top executives are ex officio not? So, why have a code at all? To be sure, some companies try to make codes of conduct relevant. Apple's business code of conduct is constantly updated annually, so does Dell. This is commendable because it means these companies are keeping their codes fresh. The updates to their codes of conduct are significant, including more expansive language in a number of areas. But neither update likely addresses the structural problem of codes in general. But employee codes of conduct are just the tip of the iceberg in terms of codes tech employees and others must live by. That is because, as mentioned, many employees aren't just subject to one. There are codes of many kinds. While some codes are specifically designed to cover just one category of individuals, some apply to wide-ranging groups. Oracle's code of conduct for its employees, for example, but also applies to temporary employees, workers, including agency workers, casual staff, and independent contractors, as well as Oracle partners. In theory, that is a good thing, but it can also create a confusing hodge. For example, in addition to violations of the HP Business Code, did the HP board realize that Mark Hurd, in his Jody Fisher scandal, also may have violated both Oracle's Business Code and Oracle's Partner Code? Both apply to Oracle partners and state, avoid engaging in any activity that involves even the appearance of impropriety. The stated penalty of an Oracle Partner Code violation is severe, constituting the basis for the immediate termination of your distribution agreements with Oracle. The bottom line, should codes matter? There are lots of questions raised, including who does the policy apply to? Does anyone know whether contractors were or are included? Do tech company employees actually have ready access to the codes? Where employees can find the codes? Over the last years, there have been lots of news with issues of firms with lots of ethical problems. For the senior management of companies, the headlines should have been a wake-up call. The solution, however, can be confined to having company employees add new provisions to codes and policies alone. Rather, it is time for these boards, and others, to get serious and review the multitude of codes and policies to which their employees are subject. It is time to evaluate the unintended consequences of minefields created by setting up a maze of policies and codes, a maze that has the potential for endless litigation related to unequal and unfair treatment. To do the job well, the process needs to start at the top with the independent directors who sit on the board. Those directors need to look in the mirror and ask this fundamental question: are we willing to hold a Michael Dell, a Larry Ellison, or a Steve Jobs accountable to these standards? This is especially critical given the contents of some of these codes, which can have the effect of restricting employee freedom of speech and association. Do these sections apply to the directors and officers as well? If the independent directors aren't willing to hold the CEO accountable to all these standards, maybe they need a fresh piece of paper and a fresh look, where they can write down what the standards really are. Remember, the standards are supposed to be applied equally to everyone. The codes are not only aspirational but are also only work when they hold real accountabilities. Ethics conversations are some of the most difficult conversations you can have. It is because things can get personal. But they are made much more difficult if you don't know where you stand with regards to the rules. As difficult as the dialogue may be, independent directors on the board are in those seats have to be courageous and have that conversation. First, set the tone at the top. Second, make ethics part of the ongoing feedback. And thirdly, uphold the accountability they require of their CEO.
Created using Powtoon.